What was a more pit of your stomach feeling when you were convicted the second time on the dual sovereignty or this loss?
Am I allowed to say?
You can say whatever you want.
What I want, golly. Well, this had to be the biggest gut feeling gut punch that I've taken in my life. Not because of an expectation that I was going to win, but because I really wanted to win.
Yeah.
Because we worked our butts off so hard and we tried to reach so many people that it really felt as though it was a David and Goliath moment. I felt like we had our last shiny, smooth rock, and it was loaded in the slingshot, and it was like, we got two between the eye, and it was, here we go, all right, here we go. And I whipped it, and I chucked it, and all of a sudden, Goliath ducked it,
Yeah.
It was like...
That's
and when he ducked it, he decided where you want it, and you want me to kick you in the balls or kick you in the face.
No, that's fair, man. That's fair. I mean that when that was one of the things as we were figuring out a time to finally get this podcast in, as I was like, that's the big question. Like,
yes.
You've been through some shit in life, man, and like when it comes down to the things that most tear at you at an emotional level in the moment, right?
Man, this mattered the most right then, because I know what representation means for all of Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
And it was a understanding that I had to come to about us having a chance that we moved the needle. We exceeded everybody's expectations.
Yeah.
So we know it's a win on that level.
Yeah.
But there's still that matter of really wanting the W. You're like, oh, man, if we just had a little more support. All of a sudden, everything that didn't happen meant more. The people that didn't show up, the finances that didn't show up, the way that things had to operate, learning how to navigate relationships in the party, all of that started to come into play.
Yeah.
But hindsight is 20/20. I think it sets us up for the next run in a major way, because not only do we have more time and we get a better opportunity to get out here and gain more ground and gain more allies, meet more people, we're not going to stop doing what we've been doing.
Yeah.
It's a matter now of, now I got a little off-season time to gain some ground while nobody's watching.
That's right. And that is where we are going to gain some ground on episode 108. Of the WTF Carbondale podcast, the podcast where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, and we tie it all back to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. And there are few people in this town that I cherish calling home with side by side than the gentleman sitting across from me right now, Van Ikner.
Yes, brother.
Not just a brother, it's the father-son feel, that Columbo
Ikner.
Ikner.
That Columbo Ikner, baby. That is it, man. I have enjoyed getting to know you, man. That's probably been the best part of this whole.
Oh, don't lie to this poor audience.
No, man. I've got to tell these folks the honest to God truth, man. It was like, I always make the comparison that this was like Clash of the Titans, and I felt like the gods kept gifting me things, and I was like, and here it comes, this old winged horse. Here comes Pegasus, and I'm like, oh, man. And Philip Matthews get to be the wise old owl. But you were with me everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm talking about, it really meant something to me. I cannot tell you that I have had a relationship that has been as enduring as this one, because I really feel as though I got a chance to get a peek behind the curtain and see what the wizard does in order to make the magic. And thank you for helping making magic happen, man. It was absolutely exhilarating. It didn't even feel like we were campaigning. We always joked and said, it feels like we're out on tour.
That's it. That's it. And that's what happens when you let personalities enter into politics, right?
Man.
This isn't about the ideology, left, right, center, the other. It is about, when you connect with those people in the audience, and the difference between being on stage and being in real life with people is the stage is there for you to work, but now the people can have access to you, because that's the job.
It is, and in theater they call it piercing the fifth veil.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. We pierced that veil. We were able to actually reach out and touch the audience and interact with them in a way that I really felt like we made real connections.
Yeah.
It was the stealthy, streamlined crew of just the two of us being out, or just picking up a few more of the guys from Alexander County, and us getting out and just being able to operate in a way that we weren't carrying a lot of baggage. It felt like we actually had a team of Navy SEALs that had been dropped behind enemy lines everywhere that we went.
But I mean, and navigating the building of relationships, we'll get to that point, right? But like the stuff that got you here to begin with, I mean, getting to Carbondale, right? That's the big.
Oh,
I know it's been 4 months since one of these podcasts, and that is now you know why. This man is why
Why I have stolen him from you all. He has been on no podcast for the last 4 months because I've had him on the campaign trail, running relentlessly.
And it's not that I was doing a great job of keeping up previously, but this was a particular chunk of time of time lost. But the big opening concept in these podcasts is what got you to Carbondale, right? Because what brought you to Carbondale is ultimately what carried you through 20, 30 years later to find yourself in politics.
I love that Southern Illinois University is here, but I think a lot of students in the early 90s, this was a mecca because there was so much crime violence that was going on back in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, it was a chance to get as far away from home and still keep in-state tuition.
Yeah.
And that in-state tuition, it meant a lot to a lot of our black families that were in my neighborhoods, and the opportunity to come someplace as beautiful as Southern Illinois with the campus and with the trees and the stars in the sky. Yeah. This was like getting away to paradise. This was me running from Chicago, trying to get as far away from home and still find some hope, find something that was going to help me become a man, something that was going to introduce me to life. And it did, introduce me to all sorts of people from different nationalities, to the different coursework that I was exposed to, and the partying and growing up and the adolescence and the meeting my wife and having a baby and all sorts of stuff, man. So this has been the great experience. It has been, when I look back, it's hard for me to actually feel as though 30 years have passed since I came down here in 1992.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing. And the journey has been one that it started off with education, and I did what some students do when they come down here. I got away from home, got away from that stability of that great single mother raising these boys that sort of kept us in line and kept us in check, to having a little bit too much freedom and going wild with it and failing out of class and finding a way to reinvent myself while I was here. And it's phenomenal, man. I wouldn't undo the experience for anything, but there are a few things that I might do a little differently.
I never asked where was your twin when you came to Southern Illinois?
We actually came to school together. This was one of the few schools that we both had applied for, and at the last minute it was like, you know what? Let's just stay together and let's both go to Southern Illinois. Yeah. And let's see what type of life we carve out for ourselves. And we came down doing music, and we came down with aspirations for walking onto the basketball team and all sorts of stuff that was, that was like, yeah, we're gonna take Southern Illinois, and we took it in a way, but not in a way that most people might have thought that our path would have carved itself out along the way. And I just feel like my life has been one that is indicative of somebody from the city of Chicago that sort of comes down here with an idea of being city slick and at the same time having that aspiration of really wanting to get away. But the old analogy, you can take the boy out of the hood, but you can't always take the hood out of the boy.
You met your wife, like you're the college romance story.
Yes, man. I met my wife here in 1995, we were doing the Woody Hall Shuffle, and it was absolutely amazing. She was, Woody Hall used to be the old financial aid building for those folks that don't realize that there was actually a building that was separate that would handle financial aid, and that also would handle college counselors that would help us get our academic schedules together.
Different than the student services building we
different
have now.
than the student services building. And it was an absolute wonderful moment in my life because I was standing in that hallway and I had been waiting an hour to get from the bottom of the stairs up to the third floor to go see my counselor. And all of a sudden, this beautiful woman is walking out of the counselor area where she's already been to see her financial aid counselor. And I look over and I say, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I have your telephone number?" And she looked back at me and she said, "Only if you walk me home." And 27 years later, from 1995, we still are together. And we have a beautiful family of 4 boys, 1 baby girl, a blended family. And I'm so lucky that we found each other and that we were able to build our lives together, and that our lives have defined themselves, and that we've been through so many ups and downs. When we got married, it was after I had dated her for 5 years, and I had asked her to be my wife on my birthday, so she couldn't say no. You know, I was like, who tells a guy no on his birthday?
I've heard you tell the meeting Martha Faye story.
Yes.
Several dozen times at this point.
Oh, but I didn't mention that.
I've never heard the part where you proposed on your birthday, so she couldn't say no.
Yes, I did. 1999, I proposed on my birthday. And then we were later married in the year 2000, May 27, 2000. And we have 22 years of a wonderful marriage that has survived the test of time and that has gone through stages where we had a lot to unlearn and learn, and we understand the role that society plays in it. And I'm very thankful for one piece of advice that I got doing wedding counseling before we got married. There was a minister that told us, if you ever think you know each other, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because you all will never be able to say that I know this person. Allow each other the space to be able to become new to each other every day. And that's sort of been our success, is that I promise you one thing, we're going to make it through today. And number 2, tomorrow might be up for renegotiation.
Do you did that feeling help you, or that mindset help you to navigate this political realm over the past year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something, having been through so much with my wife, knowing that you have someone in your corner that rain, hail, sleet, or snow, good or bad, no matter the outcome, is going to be there to pat you on your back and dry the tears out your pillow, right? When it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Or celebrate your successes with you and help you go on to carve a path that looks like 30 or 40 years worth of governing in history. You know?
That's right. When you first got arrested,
oh boy,
what was her reaction to that?
Oh man, Chicago girl and diehard family woman. Her grandmother, affectionately known as Nanny, has instilled so much loyalty and so much love in her that she was devastated too. I think that's when we had the gut punch or cooter kick. You know, I mean, like, hey, wait a minute. She took it on the chin. She wanted to be there for me, and I think that we both naively thought, "Oh, honey, we're great. We'll get through this together." And we didn't realize the roller coaster of emotions that life was going to take us through. Yeah. But we made it through. You know, it was with a lot of pitfalls, and it was a lot of us coming to the understanding that we are both 2 very fragile people, and that security really is how we really need to be there for each other. And that meant me staying home and keeping my ass out of keeping my butt out of trouble. And
No, this is a cursing podcast.
oh, okay, this is
okay. You're in the clear. Let it
I'm
fly.
in the clear. I'm issue a disclaimer, kids. You may hear a few words that are outside of my normal political realm of language that I use. But I think that she's been absolutely amazing. She made every adjustment that we needed to make. And even when prison had changed the dynamic of our relationship, because she became the head of our family, and she had to have a tougher exterior, so it meant that she dealt with things differently. Well, she had gone from a position of having an opportunity to be a very educated housewife to being somebody that was now the breadwinner and that was the provider for our children while I was gone. And the dynamic in that relationship, being a man, I was really humbled by it, because she took to the task as though it was as easy as breathing. It came natural to us. That when faced with the opportunity, we always hear the saying that adversity introduces us to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Adversity showed me that she was a fucking superhero. You know, she put a cape on, and for a while she flew so high and navigated everything that needed to be navigated. And when my oldest son, Rajon, when his mother passed away, she filled in those gaps and was able to hold our family together and able to, at the same time, be encouraging but also be vulnerable. To be able to say, I'm really tired and I need some help. And it changed the way that we communicated. I no longer took the position that I looked at my wife as though I had to be priest, provider, protector. I was like, wow, she's my priest, provider, protector too. Wow, this is something else. We both got super suits, you know.
And that gives you a lot of leeway to get things done.
It does. It really does. When you know you got somebody that is willing to be a strong link in the chain and communicate through every situation, and the only requirement between us is more information. Whenever she's upset, I said we've discovered the uncanny ability to understand one another's love language.
Yeah.
When she goes, womp, 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 I say, oh, honey, you want a date night? Or okay, honey, you need for me to apply for a school up in the Chicagoland area because you want me to be able to stagger the things that I do. I may want to come back to SIU and pursue my PhD. Oh, okay, I understand why. When we give each other a little pushback, it's not without the opportunity for us to see where we can, find compromise, where we can have a meeting of our minds and use our words and talk through those tough feelings, because there are a lot of tough feelings that couples run into. Life sometimes just shows up, and it isn't pleasant. It's been illness. There's been financial troubles. It's been the ability to start over and reinvent ourselves and start over and reinvent ourselves again. And so that is the most beautiful thing, is knowing that we are there for each other. And I appreciate a relationship with my wife because it is defining itself. It's not us trying to define it anymore or allow society to define what our relationship, our marriage is supposed to look like. It's two people discovering that life isn't always fair, and that the most important thing that we can do is show up, like we did on the campaign. Like we would always tell folks, our presence is the present. Right?
You got more sayings than I could shake a stick at, man. It's hilarious sometimes. It's proverb after proverb.
That's the dad in me now. I've gained that too. I've been seasoned up by having to raise young people. I always tell my oldest children, y'all were the test dummies. I made a lot of mistakes. I was a 19-year-old kid stumbling around trying to figure out, now what do I do with this baby? Right. Poor Rajon, man. I mean,
Turned out all right, man.
I know it, man.
Turned out all right.
I tell him a horrible story about when he was a baby, and that I remember him being congested, and I had the little blue squeezy thing, and I was trying to get the snot out his nose. And then I called my mama, and I said, I don't know what to do to get him to stop crying, baby. And mama says, now here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to pinch his nose a little bit and be real careful, but give it a little blow. And she said, snot is going to shoot out all over on the side of your face. And I was like, oh, this is real fatherhood. I'm like, wow. But those are the things that life throws at you, and you just have to sort of let experience be the best teacher.
Yeah, boogers. Life.
Yeah, boogers on the side of your face. That's the lesson to learn, folks. All right. Life is going to throw some boogers right on the side of your face.
What and we never really talked too much on this side of things, but what are your feelings having been incarcerated twice for cannabis for the same charge?
Oh, man. That
at a state and federal level.
I'm going to tell you, and now that cannabis is a regulated and traded commodity here in the state of Illinois.
Which is exactly where I'm going with this, right? What are your, because again, we never really dug into this because we
didn't have time for it.
Well, no, and it wasn't like a policy issue that anybody cared about, right?
No.
People care about like employment and healthcare and school and all this other stuff, like actual issues, not just cannabis, which is already on the market and this, that, the other, right? So it wasn't really a topic of conversation. But now that I've got you here and we're well past, right, I want to know, like, does it piss you off? Does it make you happy? Does it not even matter? Like, what is the mindset around having gone to prison 20 years ago for something that now people are just like, there's the store?
Yeah, I know. I every time I think about it, I ride by the cannabis store with pride. If I ride by Consume, I'm like, I was a marijuana prohibitionist. They built the industry on my back. But it really makes me think about what my grandmother always said. She says, baby, if it's right now, then that means it was right then.
Yeah.
And I really think that the government is getting closer and closer towards fixing the
war on drugs in general.
I think they're fixing the impact that the unintended consequences that they had on the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go as far as say I think I deserve reparations, for my war on drugs, but I really feel that it was a assault on black and brown people, mm-hmm. and that they took an opportunity to dehumanize people through the justice system. I really feel as though that it really impacted my family. It was something that I'm glad is trending, is changing now in the trends, but it really, it's been hurtful thinking and looking back now that this is the new world that we're living in, mm-hmm. under the new regulations, under new guidelines, that I might not ever had gone through the experience of ever being incarcerated for this. But that's also the very hopeful thing about it, is that somebody else won't have to go through this war on drugs, and they won't have to be incarcerated for this. People are going to say, well, Van, didn't you sell a lot of marijuana? Yes, I grew up in a marijuana family, and my family was accused of selling 2,200 kilos of marijuana in between 1994 until 1999. And I always pride myself in saying that I had relationships with my weed smoking friends. And that was a college thing. So I never really saw it as being something that was criminal. I was like, just getting weed for me and my friends that smoke marijuana. I'm willing to go a little further to go get it so it's discounted and come back and put a profit margin on it. Right. But I'm looking for the government to do some things about being able to clean up the stigma that comes along with being a marijuana felon specifically. Mm-hmm. The government has set up an opportunity where they are wiping out some of those records, but when it comes to the ability to wipe those records out, it's always geared towards low-level offenders. Mm-hmm. When Consume sold more marijuana in a weekend than I sold from 1994 to 1999. Yeah. I'm like, are we really going to,
differentiate?
Are we really going to compare apples and oranges? Yeah. Are we really going to say that one thing is different than the other? And if so, why make this stigma about the quantity when, you always hear another analogy about would you rather lose by 1 point or would you rather lose big? You know, and it doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. And that's exactly what it was for me. A loss is a loss. I lost the time, paid my debt to society. I'm fully paid my debt. I'm fully free. And I believe that I really believe that my sentence should be one that is up for appeal to the idea that my entire slate should be wiped clean.
Yeah.
When are we done with this sentence?
Yeah.
Is it a life sentence? The stigma has followed me throughout my entire life. It's followed me even when I got shot in 2010. I woke up in a hospital in St. Louis to a newspaper article and to television reports that a man in Carbondale was shot 12 times at a possible marijuana deal gone wrong. And I just couldn't believe it, that after the state sentence, after the federal sentence, after I had finished supervised release and parole, after all of this, and this is all stemming from one charge. It's not like I was a repeat offender or that I had any recidivism in my background. Dual sovereignty showed up after I finished a 8-year sentence and had gone to the Glass House and had gone from Kingpin to Burger King. And a week before my out date, the feds come and show up at my restaurant while I'm standing behind the counter. And they say, "Hey, Ike, I'm sorry, it's time to go." And I was so glad that the judge showed some leniency towards my situation and said, "Y'all let this kid come home. You let him find a good job. You let him redeem himself. He's been out working with the community." I talk with at-risk youth all the time at the Spectrum Wilderness Program right here in Southern Illinois, and went out and impacted my community, but still it wasn't enough. The Fed had an opportunity where they also got to get a pound of flesh, and they took the opportunity and they took the pound of flesh that they wanted. And not only did they take more time from me and my family, but they sent me to Timbuktu. Instead of going to the camp right up the road in Marion, right up the road, and keeping my family close so we could have those ties, instead of having those unintended consequences of my children and my wife having to feel my absence, they put more distance between us and sent me all the way to Duluth, Minnesota, where I got a chance to take little bitty rocks and make them, I'm just messing with you. But it was like going to Siberia. 55 below wind chills and 110 inches of snow. And I'm like, really? Really? I'm like, really? For marijuana? I'm like, I wonder what Brittany Gaynor is going through right now. No comparison, but mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea that we would utilize a system that is supposed to be about corrections, and we would use it to tear people down and to tear families apart. These are the unintended consequences that our campaign really took root on and advocated for people to have restorative justice. You know, I love going around with Sister Q, that is also an activist, and with her Fully Free program and with the Beyond the Walls network. Those outreach programs, they really help me stay grounded and help me reach back for people that are going through something that I had to go through and that my family went through. People always want help from folks that's been through what they've been through. And we coined the phrase on the road, we check a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Yeah.
It's because you move the move. Oh man, the moving shtick, right?
Yes,
This is I am a professional mover. I check a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
Moving Southern Illinois forward. I felt like I tapped into my inner Barack.
There you go. There you go. Now, I mean, and you had when you were incarcerated a second time under dual sovereignty.
Yes.
Right, and they came and got you. You'd had a kid and everything.
Yes.
Had another child.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. John is 19 now. You know, our oldest son that my wife and I have together, and it is amazing to think that this was over 19 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that I came home, made another baby, had gone from Kingpin to Burger King, and that wow, you know, that they would see us, and it's not like I was at the Glass House for a few weeks. I had come home to the Glass House and I was at the Glass House for over a year and a half.
Yeah.
I was at the Glass House over a year and a half, getting reacclimated to my community, developing relationships with my wife, establishing, building our family, and gaining a real employment opportunity for me. And I know people say, "Oh, it's Burger King," but I took pride in ownership and being someone that had been the guy that scrubbed the concrete, that had come home from the Glass House and that was paying 25% of my check to the center, and also paying child support for my oldest son, and also trying to make things work for my family and put things back together. Living in a trailer with my wife where the refrigerator didn't work, and where we had gotten a trailer in somebody else's name because my credit was bad, because our house had been taken when I had gotten incarcerated, and we had gotten what do they call it when you, a judgment. We had a judgment put on us for a house that we couldn't pay for. But after I got incarcerated, my poor wife was left to try and hold things together, and she couldn't hold that financial end of things together. So she moved in with two of our other friends, and they became roommates, and it was just a lot of willingness and a lot of the ability to reinvent ourselves. She kept clearing hurdles, kept moving towards the next opportunity, not letting yourself get down, not feeling sorry for herself, and just kept trying to turn it into something that was going to be stability for us here in the future. I know it, man.
And how that all plays into the here and now, right? It's like the past year's nothing compared to what the first 47 looked like.
But the first 27 gives me so much connection to the people in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
When we talk about an impoverished community, when we talk about the lack of opportunities and access, and we talk about jails, institution, death, the challenges, the day-to-day challenges of providing for a family or looking for resources in order to feed your family, standing in pantry lines and looking for help from the Western Egyptian electrical program.
Yeah.
Those are obstacles that are common to people here in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the
programs don't just exist for fun.
No, they don't just exist for fun. They are there because there are people out here
there.
that need these resources. Yeah. And that's what really made me want to run, is because of those experiences and wanting to be able to bring those resources to our community, to know that we have people that are hurting every day for that type of stability, to just have that little bit of security, that Maslow hierarchy of needs says that we're supposed to have, the basics, food, shelter. Those are important things in order for you to actually not have PTSD. I think too many of our community members are economically going through post-traumatic stress disorder, going through that disappointment of going and living in housing, where housing isn't a home, where housing is full of infestation, full of gang activity, full of an area that has lack of access to other opportunities that lead them to positions, to places outside of the hood. We got a demographic of people that are trapped on the northeast side here, but it is a reflection of ghettos being the same everywhere. My neighborhood back in Chicago was the same way. A group of people that are never going to break that generational curse, because I make this joke to people that I was hood rich, and hood rich is another word for super poor, because I was so poor that I didn't even know I was poor. We were so poor that we had community members that understood that necessity was the mother of invention, and we got together and we had potlucks, and we had community members that watched after each other's children, and we have community members that carpooled. We had to do a lot of the common sense stuff. When our roofs got to a point of disrepair, the men in the community and the women in the community would have to come together and make those repairs. We had gardens at one point and back when I was growing up in the late 70s, where our communities would come together and we would sow seeds and we would reap the harvest together. And that's how we combated a lot of those needs that were presented to us by growing up poor, but growing up hood rich. Being before the sunlight, before the sun go down, right? Being before dusk, right? Come in the house before the street lights come up. Those are things that are common to all of us. But outside was an opportunity for all of us to fellowship.
The idea that being poor is easy. this, people who get, I remember the one guy who was like, socialism, taking my paycheck and giving it to somebody else. And he was a government employee.
Yeah, right.
And the thought there of like, man, that's so off the mark in terms of what we all contribute to in order to support one another, so that we are less likely to, as a society, face these problems. Yeah. And people think that being poor is easy. No, they think that being poor is some carefree, I'm living off somebody else and everything's
the government's solving all my problems. I got a roof over my head. That's got bed bugs, roaches, and that has hallways that smell like pee and was stacked on top of each other, and people with very low self-esteem, because every time they go to report to the government, they have to dress down. They can't have a car over a certain value. And what's amazing is that the system perpetuated the idea of breaking up families, that if we give you some help, you can't have a man staying there. Mm-hmm. God forbid you have a father in the household and that you have a mother receiving some benefits that would help them sort of take the hanks off, just take the edge off of everything and maybe get ahead, maybe start some saving. Along the campaign trail, we always would talk about home ownership is the beginning of wealth.
Yeah.
Self-affordable housing. Build housing where people can actually grow roots and self-actualize and feel as though they really are part of the community. And when people have things that are nice things, they take care of nice things. We got to reimagine how we take care of one another. Again, I'm the big abstract thinker, though. I always say stuff like, we could learn a lot from nature, that human beings are the only creature on the planet that commodify everything. I mean, we are really, if we think about it, we're the only creation on all of the planet that needs currency. We invented it. We created a class of the haves and the have-nots. This ain't socialism I'm talking about. This is our inability to understand that we are the stewards over everything. We're the stewards over everything. We named everything, right? Isn't that what the Bible teaches? Adam was like, oh, a tree, right there, a birdie, a rhinoceros, right. We got all of this opportunity to reimagine what the world looks like and how it functions. And this is what we do in our best thinking. And then we continue to be the blind leading the blind. And we act as though we have unlimited resources, or that we live on a planet that is going to somehow miraculously rejuvenate itself, or that we have people that are throwaway people. I mean, if somebody gets sick and we go to get medicine, where does the medicine come from? It comes from a plant or something that is generated from the planet Earth, right? All of our housing, all of our textile, we've taken this and we've manufactured and we put all of this stuff together, and right, out of human ingenuity, our intellect, our ability to be a society has contributed to our ability to be able to design a world. But we design a world that creates a class of people. I'm just thinking that we need to sit back down at the table, all right? Have some more dialogue. Look at each other as human beings, look at each other as neighbors, and really decide that we're going to take care of each other. And it means better housing, better health care, better economic opportunities since we have a system that is perpetuated by our ability to capitalize on goods and services. You know, since that is how we have defined ourselves, then everybody needs a job that provides everybody with the basics. Everybody needs energy because we all want to be able to plug our devices up in outlets and be able to provide heat and cooling for our society. We all want to be able to have running, clean, renewable, energy. We want water that is safe for us to drink. We want to be able to take care of one another where we have advances in medical care that cure cancer, that allow us to be able to take care of all of those children that we want to see born into the world, right? I mean, I just watched a study that was talking about our world population by 2030, it will be 8.5 billion with a B.
Yeah, I mean, we just in the past couple of days hit
8 billion
people
I know, right?
on the planet.
I know. You would think we're like, oh, okay, let's get together and let's make sure we take care of these 8 billion people that we have here. Yeah.
8.5 by 2030.
Yeah, 8.5 by 2030.
The exponential growth of human population.
Oh, come on. We are like a virus. Oh, excuse me. Did I say that?
You're going to make me edit this podcast.
Oh, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I promise I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not I'm just joking. This is my quirky sense of humor. But I'm for real. No, I'm just.
but no.
I'm for real, but I'm just joking, right?
It's the water. It's turned the frogs gay.
I love it, man.
The humanizing, dehumanizing component of it, right? And eventually we'll get our way into the campaign, and maybe this is that segue, right? Was there anything throughout the campaign that you had where you had interaction with people wherever, however it was, that you felt like they looked at you like you weren't gave you that dehumanizing treatment?
Oh,
possibly something that you had experienced otherwise, but you were like, how am I experiencing this in this way?
Well, Nathan, I think we got past all of that by our ability to keep showing up.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I learned along the campaign is be unoffended.
Yeah.
People walk in the door with their biases. I mean, like they're clutching them, like they're clutching their pearls. Their biases are right around their neck, and you can see it. And once you sit down and start having enough dialogue and you show up enough, people change their positions. And that's what I've really learned about campaigning. If I have to really sum this whole campaign up, is that in order to get past people's biases, in order to keep people at the table, you got to realize that everybody gets to be the hero of their own story. And that we all tell
Kind of like a greatest freaking hits of this whole
yes.
damn saying.
I know.
I'm so, dude, I am so not the catchphrase kind of guy.
Yes.
Right? I am antithetical to the catchphrase society in which we live. And you are all catchphrases.
I'm the king of catchphrases.
And all the freaking the inspirational quotes and all this other crap. You are like the one person that has ever like
seamlessly navigated it
and put it in my brain and made it okay. And now that I'm sitting here listening to all of them back and forth, and I'm just like, oh my God, I really was on all of this the whole time.
He was drinking the Kool-Aid.
The Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid was in my cup, man.
Yes, man. But that's what it takes. It took those days when we would ride. I think that even getting some of the old timers' perspectives when you would tell me about Bill Houlihan and Senator Durbin and tell the stories about Glenn Pouchard, about when he ran for governor and he ran out of financing. Those stories were so important because it sort of gave me perspective about where we are now. Is that you want to come out the gun and you want to win, but you can't negate the fact that we moved the needle.
Yeah.
Man, we moved the needle, man. We did something amazing in Southern Illinois by making people feel like they were the heroes of their own story. That we have found the sweet spot. You know, I love to refer to that. We found a sweet spot of being able to talk to people that started off divisively, that started off wanting to be the agent of anarchy, that wanted to come in there and wanted to talk a whole lot of stuff. But we would find that common ground. We would always lead them back to, all right, well, what I hear you saying is, and being able to bring them back to that paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. What I hear you saying, and where I understand, those are relationship building phrases. Mm-hmm. Those are the phrases that helped us connect with people everywhere that we went, and where we didn't have to make it political. Mm-hmm. That we just had to make it a human enough issue where they got to be the hero and we did the listening.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing, right? Of the way that this was ran and what we were able to do with the money that we had, that it was take in the story, retell the story.
Yes.
Make the people in place the heroes of their own story. I hate your the saying stuff. We checked a lot of boxes while we made people the heroes of their own story, and we.
Yes.
And
didn't you love this also? We got the usual suspects together. We're all heroes. We've all got our capes on.
You didn't say that enough for that.
No, I love the hero talk though.
Yeah,
you know, it goes
everything.
All of that hero talk goes.
You're a nerd. You are, and that's what some people may not. Yeah, dude, like Star Trek references, comic book references, anime with the kids,
cultural, man. It's like we all watch the same TV, man.
It was great to see that and just be like, hey, people they'll never think, because they'll look at you and they'll go, oh, big tough black guy, he's not
oh man
XYZ. That there's one side of it where you're checking a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Then there's the other side of it where a lot of people would just put you in the box to begin with, having no clue.
Like I'm a jack in the box. Hey,
pop right out.
Right. I'll pop right out. But I think that is the magic, though. That is the magic, man. It's just that ability to show up and do what we did, man. And we have a lot of people that are still so encouraging. I love that we have continued getting encouraging messages from people after the campaign. People are wanting us to throw our hat back. And I speak the language of us. You know, my pronouns are always we, us. It's a we thing, not a me thing, you know. And because that's exactly what the vote taught us, is that even though we reached a lot of people, we have a lot more people that we have a chance to meet, you know. And I think analyzing the numbers, doing the analytical things, people understood that not only were we out here running on personality, but as we began to really gain momentum, people have started to understand our position. Mm-hmm. You know, they started to understand our position. They started to understand our purpose. Mm-hmm. And we were able to take what the pain that the community has, and we were showing them that we were willing to turn it into purpose.
Yeah. Well, and it is, you know, when you say this, right, there, you know, some people may hear it and go, oh, he's just talking about black people in Southern Illinois.
Oh,
and
not at all.
It is ubiquitous. It is across
rural
and small city. It is across racial lines and class lines.
It's socioeconomic lines. It is that ability to relate to all Southern Illinois, regardless of party affiliation, just being able to humanize folks. Remember, another one of the catchphrases is, Dr. King said that we need to sit down at the table as brothers and sisters so that when we get up, we can walk away family. You know, so...
Just keep them coming.
Just keep them coming. Just keep them coming. I got 1 million of them.
You're like that's what's going to happen. The whole Facebook page is going to turn into a that's all right. I'll let it ride.
Catchphrase. They're going to be like the king of the catchphrase, band of the people. You know.
The getting into this. I mean, what? Because I only hopped on board in late June, early July.
Oh man.
Like we had never met before, which was astounding to me. What we've learned about each other and how many common relationships we have.
I couldn't believe that I hadn't run across you prior to this.
This was how we were supposed to run across each other.
Destiny, brother, destiny. We were fated to meet.
Goofball, man. Absolute goofball.
And you had even done the hot box and with my son Rajan with the Pearl Session crew.
Yep.
And so, I can't believe that we had all of this common, these common rooms and these common interactions with people, and we never had met. That was something to me. Even as a business owner at Curbside, you're the Mr. Funny Man. I can't believe you never walked into the club and, hey, man, I'm going to do a comedy night.
Yeah.
Man, I could have used you then, Pegasus.
Yeah. Wasn't the time. Wasn't the time. One of the things that really interests me on the Curbside thing, right? And people would mislabel the business just because it was in that location, right? But they would mislabel it as something else, not the time that you actually owned and operated as Curbside, right? And I went back, and it wasn't until after the election was over that I went back and I read one of these articles in the Southern Illinoisan from like 2015, 2016, whatever it was, and it was talking about all of the stuff that you did at that restaurant, right? We did Veterans Sundays, and we did, music open mics, and we did X, Y, all these different things that you had going on. And I was like, where does, I keep looking for the origin of just why you're so damn good at checking all of those boxes.
Oh man,
right? I keep trying to figure it out, right? And there are breadcrumbs along the way, right? But there's no one thing that sticks out and says, okay, this is exactly why he's got this care for this group of people. This is exactly why he has this particular interest in this thing. It's all I can't trace it, man. And that is to me one of the biggest anomalies, right? Because often one of my things is deciphering,
where do you get it from?
where people's origins of purpose originate from. And I still, at this point, can't figure it out with you, right? There is a ton of purpose all over the board, but I can't figure out where it actually comes from how it touches on everybody.
Man, I think my mother has always been the most defining part of my life. She has a way of being the kindest person that I know. Mm-hmm. And not only being the kindest person that I know, but she was like Uncle Ben to me, to the relationship with Spider-Man and Uncle Ben, to whom much is given, much is expected. Right? She would always tell us about our civic responsibility, our need to really take what we've been gifted with and be a gift to other people. And Mama May, I always tell folks, I quote the book of Mama May, chapter and verse. My mama has always been one of those people that sang little songs when we were kids, and
that's where that damn catchphrase.
That's all that catchphrase stuff comes from, man. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah. And she grew up watching a lot of public speakers, so. She was self-taught and self-educated. She is an entrepreneur that did public speaking. She hosted events, and when we were young, it was my twin brother and I's responsibility to go out and pass out flyers for her parties and for her shows. And then when she would have these big events, she would always make us get out there and say a few words to the people, baby. Get out there and make sure you shake everybody's hand when they come in and when they leave. So we learned customer service. We learned to give people every consideration. And if it ain't nice and it ain't necessary, don't say it.
So this really isn't just, and that's the other thing, man, because I keep trying to figure out where the facade breaks on your happiness. I'm trying to cuss you up and down for just being okay. But dude, I cannot figure this shit out for the life of me. I want to see where it cracks, where it breaks,
it doesn't.
Where it doesn't, and it's not fake. And I keep trying to figure out where is the
The audacity of hope, my friend. I'm gonna
Jesus.
tell you. It is something that I don't. There's a fire that is stirring inside of me that won't go out.
Yeah.
That just won't go out. That is just. I want more of this. Because I really feel as though I am a bit of a personality.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a bit
Yeah,
of a.
we got that
Just
part.
a
We got
bit.
that
Just a
part.
bit. I'm a bit of a personality. But what really makes me a personality is that I'm encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And that encouragement that I have, even when I'm at my lowest, here's another catchphrase. My mother always used this one. And she got it, I think, from Louis Viscalia, some famous speech writer or someone that did all of these great infomercials back in the day. But he would say that if you can look up, you can get up. And that's always been the scenario. She said, I can remember being 10 years old, and my mother would say, all right, baby, put your feelings in your pocket, and come on, let's operate. Learn how to put your feelings in your pocket, and let's operate. All right, and that is what rings out in my head. It's like, okay, it's all of a sudden I got my feelings. Oh, put my feelings in my pocket. Okay, Mama, I'll put my feelings in my pocket, and this is what we got to do. And we never had time to feel sorry for ourselves. It was always a need to press on.
Do you think that is indicative of a situation in which you have to operate on a fight or flight mechanism? That part of this is without the ability to put it in your pocket and operate, you die.
Yes. Fight, flight, or freeze. I just didn't like that whole deer in headlights, feeling. I've had some moments where, along the campaign route, where I was looking for things to happen that didn't play out the way that I wanted them to, and I had an opportunity to fight, flight, or freeze. And most of the time we rose to the occasion and we get out there and we just keep fighting. Yeah. But we know that there are always situations that come along that make you rethink your strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that ties into that is just the general rumors of politics, right?
Yes.
And for somebody that has a visible scarlet letter.
Oh yes,
right.
Yes.
Like
oh,
you wear.
Boy, the rumors were flying rampant.
My God.
Right.
And they all came in very condensed, like small presentations.
Yes.
Right. But they never like flew out of control to the point at which there was like a public discussion of things. But it was wild to me that we would hear these things, right? Like somebody accusing a family member of something, right?
Yes.
Somebody saying, just any number of wild things that people could misconstrue based off of the one factual reality of your incarceration, right? So go ahead. Sorry,
I know exactly where you're headed.
Yeah.
What really is amazing to me is that like I know, Nathan, people can say whatever they want to say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
And that fire that they try and start, that if we don't give it any oxygen, that's why we always said, just don't even give it any energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we were really successful, is that we would hear the rumors and we would hear all of this side talk and everybody sidebarring on us, and we just vibrated above the noise. We just stayed. We vibrated at a very high frequency. It's
like, dude, I should have brought the bingo card with me. And
right,
saying bingo.
Oh, we should do a bingo game.
That's funny.
That's funny.
That's
funny. Yeah, that's funny. But that's been the success. Has been not giving it any oxygen, not wasting our time, not dragging our feet or getting stuck in the mud. We were like, oh, that's mud. And then you'd say, all right, man, we're dodging that. Yeah. And you got really great at, I really appreciate you, not only for being organized and being knowledgeable about the media, but also having the ability to do block flu, because Nathan is the king of deflection. He wouldn't let anything get to me. I could walk around the room with my heart in my hand, and
People
Nathan
throwing knives and arrows
people
at
throwing
it.
knives and darts, and here's Nathan like, oh, wait a minute.
But I mean, and at the core of it, right? It's because none of that served the purpose of the process, right? Like what? Okay, sure, it may serve the functional political argument of the back and forth of what we've come to understand as the mudslinging bullshit of American politics, right?
Right.
But it didn't actually serve the core function of why we pursue policy in the first place, which is to elevate the conversations around the stories and then use those stories to make policy that then reflects, on the realities lived on the ground by people day to day. And so it was like, why bother? I mean, and I'm the type of person that in most instances would be all about arguing with people on the internet and getting at it and whatever else. But to have somebody come in and, I remember one guy that,
felon,
and gave him time and time and time, engaged him 5 different times. And eventually it wouldn't, that argument wouldn't go away. Listen, man, we gave you the full story. We talked about it over and over and over again. And we fed you everything that you asked for. All the red meat that you wanted to chew on and tear up. You got it, man. You got the full story. We tried to say, come in and have the real conversation now about what's happening in the here and now. Wouldn't do it.
No.
Right? No. And those folks were few and far between.
Right.
Right? But just knowing that, that's what's worth dealing with.
Well, and I think that people were disarmed by our ability to constantly pivot and to ask people to participate.
Yeah.
Because that's what we provided a neutral platform. We provided solid answers for everybody that had questions. And it gave us an opportunity to sort of take those barriers to access down, to make everyday Southern Illinoisans feel as though, oh, wow, look how they're navigating their way through that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it generates more people that participate as candidates in the process, and that people that are on the fence about wanting to get involved in politics, that they come and participate regardless of the rhetoric and the opposition, that's part of it, and that they get out here and that if they can learn anything from our campaign, I think it would be authenticity.
Yeah.
I think that we have been very authentic in our approach and been honest with folks the entire way.
And on all sides, right? Because we continue to talk about this, right? Any time that we talk to folks and we were like, building political power over the next however many decades, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter if you're, blue, red, gold, green, or whatever cover, like, it is about having place-based politics, right?
Yes.
It's not about be a Republican, a Democrat, a Green, a Libertarian, an Independent, or whatever it may be. It is about understanding that you live in Southern Illinois and that you work for the sake of Southern Illinois.
Yes.
And that, party be damned, the goal is resources for here, a future for here.
Yes. And that's what participation does. And that's what I think people are really latching on to the idea. They're saying, these people genuinely, by these people, you and I, and Philip, and the people that were associated with our campaign, that we really want to bring people to the table. And that became more important than those issues that divided us.
Yeah.
That no matter what you think about our politics, what's most important is your participation. Because if we vote on it as a community, then we honor what we vote on.
Yeah.
And that's how you form real policy.
Yeah.
By bringing everybody's voices to the table. And that's what's also the thing that worries me the most about our political environment right now, is that we don't have enough participation to reflect the values and the desires of the community at large. That's the thing that worries me the most, is that when I think about voting, I've never regretted the times that I have voted, but I have regretted not voting and not participating, not having my voice be part of the dialogue.
And you're a person who has lost that right, because it is a right
Yes.
in this country, right?
Yes, yes.
Lost it, had it, lost it,
And
got it back.
yes, yes. And it means maybe it means more to me. I think it means. I mean, in a sense, when I say means more to me, it means more to me now.
Yeah.
It means more to me now, having had it, lost it, got it back. Now I'm like, I want to hold on to this.
Yeah.
And I want other people to understand the benefit of us being able to lend our voices to one another behind things that we really support. Our campaign brought together the LGBTQ community. It brought together people that were that had ideas about hemp manufacturing. It brought together people that wanted to provide safe, renewable housing. We talked about the Safety Act and things that were policies that are going to affect our community. We were able to talk about taxation in our area. We addressed clean, renewable energy. We have all of these different things that we are addressing, but it's only a small amount of our community that is paying attention and making sure that they're getting their voices heard. And that's where we gain our ground at the next election cycle. We keep building on what we're doing right now and keep bringing more people to the table, getting more people to say, hey, man, listen, only a third of our population in Jackson County voted. Only a third of our voting population. Only a third of our voting population voted. Yeah. When you got 42,000 voting adults and you only get 13,000 people out, it means that we got a lot of work to do. That means that it's not just on the Democrats, it's not just on the Republicans, it's on the Greens, it's on the Independents, it's on all of us as a community for us to lend our voices to each other.
Yeah. It's the other fight of feeling like, why am I even doing this? The most devastating and real example being the folks in Alexander County who why does it matter if I vote right now when I'm being
kicked out of my house?
Yeah.
And you realize I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but this announcement was made November 1st, 7 days before the election. 2 buildings full of people got the announcement that one building is being shut down because of structural damage, and potentially the other building in the future possibly might be shut down. That insecurity, that housing insecurity that you have, creates a narrative where people can't participate, where people don't feel good about the people that are in power. Mm-hmm. And although that is more of a call, I think that if there was an opportunity where we try to get people to turn that pain into purpose. Now come on. Now, this system is perpetuated by people, but it has to be all of us together in order to make our blip on the radar bigger. That if we have a building of 2 people, everybody should have came down to the polling places and they should have voted in numbers. They should have got out and they should have ran the numbers up and really sent the message to the people that make policy that this issue is important to them. But the situation created enough divisiveness where people hunched their shoulders and they said, what does government do for me?
Yeah.
What does government do for me? My vote doesn't count. When I vote, stuff like this happens. Cairo just lost 300 members of their population just a couple years ago. It seems as though that there's a goal, or there's something going on that the people in Cairo are being driven out of their community, and they want to know why. They want to be able to receive the promise that Cairo is looking at when the port projects finally put shovels in the ground. They want to be able to see what $250 million worth of private investment looks like being put into Cairo, Illinois. What the jobs look like, what the schools look like, what the return of the hospital looks like, what it looks like when they start bringing more businesses back into the community instead of shutting them down, what it looks like when HUD decides to build more housing in the community instead of busing people out of the community and giving them vouchers. Amazing. So we got an uphill battle, but we got a lot of people that are willing to stay in the fight, that are willing to do the work, willing to plant gardens so that they impact the food deserts that are down there in that area. Cairo is standing at the pillar of Illinois, and it's almost like the Greek god Atlas, where he was stuck holding up the world. That's what Cairo is. You know, Cairo is supposed to be there holding up all of southern Illinois. You know, and we get a group of that. We get a group of citizens that are down there that really need our help and that really need investment in the area. I believe that in the next 10 to 20 years, we'll see that city turn into a mini St. Louis, and it'll be at the beginning of a Renaissance age for Cairo.
But who's going to be there when it happens is the question.
That's always the question. It's always the question.
Right now,
when they put those high-priced condominiums next to the riverfront property.
I mean, you know, is that what the future looks like in this? Is it you know, core gentrification in not a good way, right? 99% of the time, people are using the term gentrification or using it in a negative context, you know, and you know, I'm sure that there's a broader application of the word, but let's be real about it, right?
Yes.
When it's about kicking people out of their homes to do whatever anew for somebody else's money,
Yes.
right? That is not a good thing in Southern Illinois more than anything, right? Because this is sacred land that is worth protecting for the people that are already here and have been here for a very long time.
Well, I think that one thing that probably makes it more relatable to other Southern Illinoisans in our area is to equate Cairo to towns like Grand Tower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grand Tower, where they experience flooding and where the population where you've seen an extreme decrease in the population in Grand Tower area. And these are great communities. These are great people. These are people that are proud of where they live at and where they come from. But all of us know that each one of these communities, they deserve better. They do. And we can do better.
So this is where I want to close out on just kind of the overall how you got into this and the process all the way through it. Like what when was this idea to run for office first, like in front of you? How long has it been? Sorry, I mean
it's February of 2021, I believe. I'm sure that Jackie Norton showed up in my inbox. Another person that I had never met except as a Facebook friend, as a Facebook acquaintance. And Jackie showed up and she said, "Van, I want to know, have you ever been interested in running for office?" And we started there. And the first time we talked, I sort of blew it off. I was like, I was hesitant. I didn't know who Jackie was. I disqualified myself immediately because I was like, I'm an ex-felon. Wow, you know, what makes her think that I would want to be in politics? You know, and even if I had thought about this before, you know, I would be putting my whole life under a magnifying glass. And I also had to remove myself from the idea that I'm a small business owner that runs a moving company, and I get to go out and throw furniture with my big cousin and with my children and with my baby, with my other baby cousins that are involved with our business. And it was something that was just absolutely wonderful for me. It checked the 3 boxes for me. I needed it to be to provide me with independence. It had to give me the ability to do what I wanted to when I wanted to do it. It was impactful. Every day I had this sense of completion. I show up and I put my cape on and we help somebody, you know. And then it provided income. So all of these boxes I checked in my life. So I was like, why should I step out of my comfort zone in order to pursue this opportunity? But the more Jackie pursued me, the more the opportunity started to appeal to me. I started to do some research. She started to give me some numbers, and all of a sudden I got to fast forward to 2022, and I had decided, wow, yeah, I do want to do this. And in February of 2022, after that initial contact, a year prior to that, I got it in my heart and got it in my mind that this was doable. first we had to ask the party, and we found out there weren't any barriers. There was nothing stopping me from pursuing the opportunity. I didn't need permission to run. I didn't need permission to run, not from anybody. There was no barrier there for me that said that I had to have permission from somebody in order to run. And given the opportunity, we just started then going through the process. You know, once you realize that I don't need permission to participate, I decided I'm gonna follow the process. So we began to follow the process, and as the process was unfolding, I realized that I had gotten started late in February. That was the first time I had shown up at a political event. Was the one out in Murfreesboro where I first ran across you back then. I was like, wow, all right. I met you, and people were signing my petition then, and I was going through the process of getting 400 people, and that was a great event because at that event I had 10 sheets when I walked out of that place. I was like, I'm already getting started. I got this, and we went out and we worked hard and met the deadline of getting signatures. And the day that I was headed to go down, the car broke down. And so the car breaks down, and there's another hurdle to have to clear. And then I had to decide at that moment, well, do we take that as a sign to quit, or we take that as a sign to persist? And you know the result of that. We persisted. We said, Honey Badger doesn't need any petitions. We just want to run as a write-in campaign. And this write-in campaign, I think, has been more advantageous than anything that could have manifested itself out of us getting the petitions in, because it showed our tenacity. It showed that we were willing to do the work, and that we took a strategy of making those cards up and getting out there and telling folks, make sure you write my name in. It had the date of the primary election, had the example of the ballot on the back of it. So we're working smarter, not harder, trying to get to that goal of 400 people to make sure that we got on the ballot and that we would be headed towards the general election. I was so happy that that work resulted in us not only securing 455 people that did it correctly, that wrote our name on the ballot and made sure that they shaded in the bubble for State Representative 118. They did all of that correctly, but there were hundreds of more people that had attempted to do it and didn't do it correctly. But we had that 455. That I said every time I think about the what is the 300 with Spartans. When I think about the Spartans at 300, I think about the 455 of the 118. I was one of them. I thought about getting everybody T-shirts that said I was one of them.
Get them all numbered. 1 out of 455.
Yeah,
2 out of 455. 3 out of 4. And that was, I take no credit for that. That was all you, man. Like I said, I wasn't on this until July. The last leg, sure, but dude, up to that primary and getting those votes and what have you.
It felt good knowing that you still had your eyes on me.
I
remember when we met in February, you said, hey, I'm going to be keeping my eye on you. And then, and then you were letting me know I might be able to. We got a meeting in between. We had a meeting in between our meeting in February and the actual primary. Where we had gotten together and you had said, well, if you get past the primary, I might be able to provide your media for. You didn't know what you were signing on for.
Listen, man, it was an opportunity to really figure out, like, and it was one person, right? So now we know if one person can do that with one person who is as good as you are, right? That's the basic bare bones formula for this.
Come on.
For an introductory opportunity at the dance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That now there's a playbook for not how do you go out there and beef up and structure up and this, that, the other. It's now there's a playbook for how do you go out there and run as lean as you possibly can.
Whew.
Right, still not win, whatever. But like, how do you put on that showing for pennies on the dollar?
Oh,
right.
To get almost 40% of the vote. Wow.
And I'm interested. I don't know what that final number looks like after absentee ballots, mail-ins, all that other stuff.
I can't wait to see
because
it.
I
think
was
our number
I was
keeps going up.
I was very surprised at just the overall low number of votes that were kind of in that pseudo final tally of like 33,000. It was like my expectation was a district with
100,000 people.
Well,
in
but like in terms of the votes,
turnout
40 to 44,000.
Yes,
right. That was the mindset of okay. Here's the numbers of what we expect vote wise. Here's what we're competing for. Here's how we have to dice it up.
Well, I may get in a little trouble for this perspective, but I believe that one of the biggest factors that was working against us was that we didn't have enough people contending for positions that we should have been contending for as a society, as a community. There should have been, it shouldn't have been so lopsided. There shouldn't have been so many seats that were unopposed. In a democracy, we need participation in order to bring people out. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't have people on the ticket downstate that were on the ticket that represented the same interests, values, and had the same type of entourage. We would have had an entourage effect. Everybody would have brought more people to the table. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens when more people participate. When we have a group of slated candidates that were running, when every seat is being contested up and down the ticket, we bring more people to the table. And I know it was very traditional that most people don't turn out for midterm elections. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing really exciting enough on the ballot in order to really get our base out and excited and getting them stirred up. I was hoping that I was enough to bring them out, and that Chip Marker was enough to bring them out, and that James was enough to bring them out. But we needed a greater showing of people coming together about issues that affect everybody in Southern Illinois.
Yeah, and when you're talking about this, right, and to clarify for folks that we're talking about, state house, Senate races, whatever yes. they may be, where there's an actual cause for debate and discussion around things, right? And yes. this is I'm sure just as true up north on the other side of things, where plenty of Democrats run uncontested races yes. and whatever it may
Doesn't
be. Right?
It seem like a trade-off? It seems like they concede. The Republicans are conceding territory up north so that they can have territory down south. It mm-hmm. almost seems like a swap off. If you can run all the candidates you want in the state of Chicago, and we know that you'll carry your ticket up there, but don't bother us down here. So I don't know. There's a lot of work to be done within the system. We have to, as citizens, we have to we have to clear all of those barriers, and we have to begin to walk through these access points. And we have to start vying for positions where we want to see change in our community, period. There is no ground to concede. Up north or down south, participation is the most important thing.
What was the difference in mindset between the first leg of the campaign and the second leg of the campaign, where we started just walking through doors and being in places versus knocking on doors and asking for the, that write-in vote to get on the board?
Yes. We began to do the tour. We began to really showcase everything that's great about Southern Illinois. And people have thanked us for not being divisive in our politics and for not making this a mudslinging campaign and not making this about anything but the people. Our biggest advantage has been our engagement. Mm-hmm. People actually feel as though we were listening. And our vote turnout is reflective of the minimal amount of time that we had to reach the people, because we do have a grassroots campaign, that we didn't have any assistance from the mechanisms through the party that would help us reach people the way that, on a mass level, the way that our opponent was able to operate. You know, it's a big difference when you are playing grassroots politics than when you're playing party politics. And I think that we have won the favor of the party just by showing up and being persistent and mending relationships and set expectations for the next time around, that not only do we take what we were able to inject in the system, but now we get a little party muscle. And I think that's going to make a huge difference for a new slate of candidates that'll be coming up.
And who those are is anybody's guess, but we are working on it. I mean, just like, you know, the one guy down in Anna, right, who we met at the very end of everything. He was 20 years old, right?
Wow.
Out of left field, who was like, this is my jam, this is where I want to be, right? In terms of participating in politics, right?
Oh, man.
The young woman from Meridian, I want to say, who, you know, is politically probably on the conservative side, the way that she kind of talked about things. But it doesn't matter, because she's interested and wants to be there. And there has to be somebody there when whatever this generation of, political leadership steps down or moves on, or whatever it may be, right? That on either side, there has to be people to replace other people, and there has to be purpose behind those people to actually participate in the replacement of, like, we're going to go in and we're going to continue the work and, serve our next generation, 2 generations up, 2 generations down, whatever it may be.
I love it. I think that is worth really noting, putting some emphasis on, that we have sounded an alarm that is bringing that younger generation to participation and having an opportunity to prove themselves to our older generation, and letting the older generation know that you have some passionate people that you can pass the torch to. I think we've had a lot of experiences where we've gone around where we've been the youngest people in the room. I mean, you're 33, I'm 48, and before you showed up and started running with me, I was the young guy in the room. So I'm like, yeah, here's my son, Nathan Colombo Ikner, right. But it was great not being the youngest guy in the room then. But that is the goal. That is the goal, is to pass the torch, to raise this next generation up to respect the principles of democracy and participation, and our voices being our vote. That's priceless, man. That's how we move the needle. That's how we authentically get people at the table. It's just saying, well, we don't care what your politics are. We want you at the table.
Nope, wrong one. Let's try this again. Transition. And that's it. It's not about what your politics are. It's about being at the table and willing to participate. That's the takeaway on this one. 108th episode of the WTF Carbondale podcast. Have a good one, folks. Whatever that one may be.